Hello, this is Sierra and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video inside of Hermitcraft using Clockwork. And yeah, we'll see how far we can go with this. We are reading episode 58, once again in Tango's perspective, chapter 12. We'll see if we can get to chapter 13, but depends on time. It depends on time. I'm sure you guys wouldn't mind an extra little bit. Yeah, chapter 12. An hour had passed after the attack from Mr. A and his fellow companions, RJ and Gerald. As Tango had quickly found out later after overhearing some discussion from a couple of the cause members who had lended a hand during the event. The men had long since disappeared, which left the giant machine out front, still lying on the grass from what he could see through the window. No one had come back for it yet, nor had it woken up. Part of him hoped it wouldn't wake up again. The early evening had finally arrived as he saw the sun just above the tree line. As he looked back down at what he was doing, he'd been examining the gadget that had been used to torment Impulse, trying to see how it worked, to see if there was a way around it. He knew Blake had a gadget that could intercept the voltage when the thing was removed, but he wondered if he could improve that entirely and simply disable the machine as a whole. From what he could tell, it seemed possible. He quietly examined the headband, having opened part of it as he looked between it and the controller, which he'd broken apart as well, noticing a few patterns as he readjusted some things before stepping back to get into his redstone box. He wasn't sure if this would make much of a difference at the start, since after all, it wasn't like people just solve a solution like this in a few hours, at least for most people. I'm sure Impulse probably would have solved it just as fast as he would, if not faster. It was hard to tell at the moment. Seeing as his friend right now was resting and stuck in bed by the next few days. He grabbed what he needed as he returned to the gadget, creating a small little device that fit well into the headband when he tested it. Small enough that someone could attach it without any of the men noticing. At first, of course. They'd surely notice when they tried to use it. For the moment, he wasn't going to let that concern him. It didn't have to be much for now. It was just something to do while he got his mind off everything that had happened. It didn't take him long before he was able to finish up his little addition, as he repaired what he had removed from the headband controller, securing them before he turned the device on with the controller, adjusting a few things as he noticed the gadget spark. He winced. How high this thing could possibly go. Probably overkill. These gadgets were getting far too dangerous for his taste. He lowered the frequency as he picked up his tiny machine and carefully put it into the headband, pressing a button as the headband stopped. His usual humming. It was dead silent. That was certainly something. Just the controller a bit before pressing a button, as he noticed a small spark before it died back down. He smiled. That's perfect. It still wasn't bad for a first try. He turned off the headband and took off the small gadget he created as he pushed them aside, deciding to get to work on it more tomorrow. As he walked over towards the window, peeking out into the evening. The daylight slowly starting to fade as he looked down at the machine. Would it be possible to try to see what he could salvage from it? Or learn from it? Maybe even find a way to intercept it or use it against the men? Perhaps even stop it from causing harm to begin with. Sure, the men might have scared them a few times with these things, but feeling that if the men really wanted to, they could send more. He wasn't sure if they would be able to handle multiple of these nasty machines. Of those nasty machines, they barely got away with one to begin with. They needed a plan of action. His thoughts were interrupted when he spotted movement by the front door of the base as he looked down to see a shadowed figure sneaking out of the door. Looking around as Tango squinted his eyes, thinking what would free recognized who it was. He quietly opened the window, securing his wings as he glided down to meet the hermit. Hello, Gran. Tango mused as the other hermit jumped in surprise when he noticed a fly above him before gliding right next to him. Where did you come from? He demanded. He looked around the area, which seemed pretty empty. There didn't seem to be any sign of monsters, cause members, or even hints that Mr. men were here. It's absolutely silent. I was just thinking when I noticed you coming out the front door, Tango shrugged. What you up to? Nothing, really, Green admitted quickly. glancing over his shoulder towards the door, which was closed. Surely you're up to something. Tango mused with a chuckle. Who, me? Green asked simply before letting outside. I wanted to check on that machine, make sure it didn't, well, that it wouldn't reactivate or something. I had the same idea, Tango replied with a nod. We could check it out together and see if we can use it against Mysterious minions. Yeah. Green said quietly, looking down at his feet for a moment, before nodding his head. Bounding over to the fallen machine, as Tango went to follow him, wondering where all the other cause members were at that moment. Were any of them keeping an eye on them from inside? Was it possible someone was invisible? So wouldn't they have spotted them by now? He pushed the questions out of his mind as the two of them arrived at the machine, which looked smaller than the previous one they'd faced months ago. Green went for the back of the machine and examined it. See anything? Tango asked curiously, following the hermit to see what he was looking at. It looked to me that there's a hatch to there, Green pondered. Don't think that's the design they're using this time, Green, Tango replied simply, pointing at a white outline of a hand just below the head of the machine. Green took a step closer as he looked at it. It's the same type of power source? Green wondered. He lifted his hand above the outline, stating as he glanced back at his friend. Probably, yeah, Tango nodded. I want to try testing it, though. Tango, you know you shouldn't tell me that. Green replied with a sigh as he took a step back from the machine, pulling his hand back slightly. You don't know what it might do, Tango warned. For all we know, it could reactivate and start its killing spree all over again. It hasn't killed anyone yet, Green admitted. I don't want to test that chance, Tango sighed. He put a hand on his friend's shoulder, pulling him further away from the machine. You know how hard it is for me not to resist something like this, Green replied softly. Maybe we'll do nothing. I just want to know. Tango swallowed before shaking his head. We should get cause members to dismantle this machine. Let's go inside. Get inside. Okay. Green replied slowly as Tango let go of his friend's shoulder and began walking back towards the house, hearing footsteps behind him as he looked over to the window as he spotted a figure looking out at them. No more than a few steps later did he stop in his tracks when he heard a gasp of pain. As he whirled around, he said, sure enough, Green had gone to touch the outline, trying to pull away from it as he faltered. Green! Tango shouted as he ran back, yanking his friend away from the machine as his friend collapsed into him weakly. As he pulled his friend back, he heard the machine hum back to life. What did you do? Okay, Green insisted quietly, looking over at the machine. The two of them watched the machine slowly get back to its stubby feet. Strained. It could have killed you. Tango hissed as he looked up at the machine as it turned its face to them, pushing his friend behind him as he grabbed his shield, seeing the shattered eye watching them for a moment. As he tensed, the thing might not be able to fire the laser at them, but his claws and feet were just as dangerous. The two of them watched in still silence before the machine turned away from them and began running back into the trees, knocking down trees in the process. As Tango breathed a sigh of relief, he heard running feet behind him. Are you two okay? Blake's worried voice asked as Tango turned as he ran and sat himself down on the ground. Blake went over to him. Yeah, I think so, Tango replied quietly. You wanted to do that from the start, didn't you? Maybe. Korean replied meekly with a small smile. Okay, though, it's a little bit of sleep and it'll be fine. Just a little energy drain, that's all. You and I both know it's more than that, Blake said sternly as the hermit nodded as the cause member offered a hand as he took it, getting to his feet. Where do you think that thing went? Tango questioned the young man as he followed them back toward the house, Green leaning on the escort as he guided them to the front door. Back to be repaired, most likely, Blake said with a frown. We need to be on our guard in case he comes back. They need a YouTuber's life force, he said. Green said quietly, when I can tell they don't have that here anymore. You think? Tango asked from the other YouTuber. I don't think. I know, Green admitted calmly. Some of us have stronger aura than others. I'm not sure I understand, Tango admitted. Right now, we need to get inside, Blake replied matter-of-factly as he entered the door, Tango closed it behind him. Then we need to prepare for anything in the coming days. Then let's be sure we're ready then, Tango said simply. Get some weapons and some TNT cannons, and we might be going somewhere. He noticed Gray's smile as he sat down on an armchair as Blake took out a medical box, handing him a simple healing potion as Tango agreed and consumed it, his pale face returning some color. As he leaned back to close his eyes, as he said, "I'd love to see us above some of their secret hideouts. I'm tired of this." "We all are. Don't you worry," Tango mused. "They won't see it coming." "Yeah." Korean nodded with a chuckle. As the room fell silent, Tango glanced over at Blake wearily. "You'll be okay," Blake reassured him. "You pulled him away at a good time." "That's good." Tango sighed as he shook his head. "For a moment there, I had a flash about what happened last time. Seeing him coming out of that thing. I know." Blake nodded, putting a hand on his shoulder. "I'm sure it was hard. Not just to you. At least we know now, and we can deal with it." "Can we?" Tango asked. "I don't see why not. You're quite a tenacious group of individuals," Blake said with a chuckle. "I have no doubt you have it in you." "Thanks," Tango mused, a small smile as he turned towards the ship staircase. "I should probably going to hang out upstairs for a little bit." "Enjoy yourself," Blake said with a nod, as the hermit nodded. Returned, heading to the stairs before he started to climb them, wondering how much time they had before the men would return for another round. Would they be ready in time? Or did the men have something more sinister up their sleeves? Wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer to that one. Still, the men weren't stupid. If they wanted them captured or dead, it would be quite a challenge to keep the men from getting what they wanted. They had to outsmart them. They didn't have much of a choice. Chapter 13? Chapter 13. A week had passed since they'd rescued his friend Mr. A and his men. Time that seemed to fly by faster than he could process. He'd taken part in some plans to potentially retaliate against the men, once again to prove a point. The men deserved it after all the pain they'd caused to all the hermits. Even if they didn't chase the men out of the world, at least showing them that they were just as capable of fighting back. It would be war. It always had been. Hopefully, it was a war they could win. It was fairly early in the morning as Tango walked down the hallway, back towards the bedroom as he decided to spend the night. That does not make sense, does it? Spend the night in. For the past week, he'd shared a room with Impulse, more to keep him company, and in case the men did come to attack the place again. He'd rather be in the room with his friend to protect him than be in another room entirely and risk the chance of the men doing any more harm than they had already. He arrived at the bedroom door as he hesitated, glancing down at each side of the hallways warily. There was no signs of anything fishy going on. No bubbles. Machine wasn't going off either to reveal any feet. Everything in the house appeared quiet. He put his hand on the door handle and calmly turned it. Opening it, he stepped inside to see his friend sitting up in bed, staring out the window thoughtfully, his arms wrapped firmly around his knees, which were pinned to his chest. The hermit turned his head when he heard Tango approach, as a smile appeared on his face. "Good morning," Paul said quietly. He moved his legs off the bed and onto the side, touching the hardwood floor below. "Thought you wanted to sleep in a little bit," Tango mused as he closed the door behind him and went to sit down beside his friend on the bed. "I thought so too," Paul sighed, shook his head. "Nightmares?" Tango guessed. "Yeah, pretty bad ones too," the hermit replied quietly. He looked down at the floor by his feet as Tango watched him calmly. "I don't think I can go back to sleep after that." "What happened?" Tango asked curiously. "In the dream, I mean. You're okay with talking about it." Paul swallowed and shrugged. He continued to stare at the floor. "Just a lot of stuff I never wanted to see. Those men made me see so much pain and misery, so much despair, so much agony. Memories from those who suffered from that gadget before me. People probably didn't make it out alive. But you did." Tango pointed out. "Twice, actually." Impulse managed a small smile and began to kick his legs slowly back and forth. "Yeah, I did. Memories are still there, though. The first day with the helicopter. Seeing homes being destroyed and my friends." Apparently some of it had actually happened. Some of it actually happened, Tango replied after a moment. His friend trailed off, tears forming in his impulsive eyes. But it could happen. But they could happen. He said with a quiet whisper. Good, Tango agreed, calmly, putting a hand on his friend's shoulder. It doesn't necessarily mean it will. Pulse nodded as he looked up at the other hermit, wiping away the stray tears that had managed to come through. I should have known you guys wouldn't have given up on looking for me. Hey, you don't know, Tango said with a smile. They can say anything they want, but we all knew we'd find you. We did. Pulse nodded his head again. He sighed, staring towards the door before reaching the communicator that was sitting by the nightstand, looking down at it for a moment. It's true. Some of us are still out there, still waiting to be found. They will be, Tango replied, matter-of-factly, as his friend looked back up at him. That's partly why you made that, isn't it? I'm not going to deny it. And Bolts replied with a chuckle. He shook his head. I know his kids are still out there somewhere. I do too, Tango agreed. Right now, though, there are people here who need us. We're a team. Do you think we can stop them? And Bolts asked quietly, turning the communicator back onto the nightstand. We can certainly try, Tango said with a reassuring grin. Do you think you'd be able to rest a little bit longer? We've got a mission later today if you want to come along. You sure it's safe? Pulse asked slowly. We look out for each other. Tango nodded. I'll be fine. Trust me. And Pulse nodded and nodded his head as Tango got to his feet and stepped away from the bed. Thanks, Tango. I'll think about it. Tango. It's almost like I almost said bangle. Oh no. Not this again. Take your time. There's no need to rush. Tango chuckled. He waited until his friend nodded again, climbing back into the bed as Tango walked back towards the door. Glancing back, one moment before exiting the room, he could feel the smile on his face as he walked down the hallway, knowing that no matter what happened next, they would all prevail. This was their freedom that was being jeopardized. They would fight until the end. What would happen after? Can't be sure. He knew it would be worth it. I still really want to shout that battle cry. Want to know what that is? I mean, I don't know. It's not a Hermitcraft reference, unfortunately. But I've hinted at it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was fun. There might be another season. Maybe to come. Like, this is the end of this story, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be more stories to come. It's just not going to be a part of season Clockwork. Could always do more with season Clockwork, but the whole point is it to be a sort of season style sort of story, where it follows a storyline or several storylines and all that. Yeah. I still left Beat-Up's storyline open a little bit because, well, there's still that redstone virus thing that hasn't been resolved yet. But this one also hasn't been resolved yet because, well, they don't know where the machines are. They don't know what they're for. They don't know what the men are planning to do with them. But yeah, something's going to happen. I'm just not 100% sure what yet because, I mean, it might sound weird, but the characters haven't told me yet. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one, whenever that might be. If you want to give out any ideas what you want to see next, be sure to let me know. But yeah, this was fun. And I hope you had fun too. See you in the next one.